Hello and welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Lauren and today I'm going to be looking at why American beer tastes like water. This is from the channel The Good Stuff. And I'm a bartender. I do like various American beers. Well, I mean, I feel like this video is 7 years ago. The craft scene hadn't taken off quite as well as it quite as much as it has now. But we'll see. I'm curious, like, because there is a lot of really, really terrible, like, all of the, like the Bud Lights and the Millers and the, like, there's a lot of really, really terrible beers out there that are just not good. And it's like, there's got to be a way to do sort of a light beer that's not horrid, but America hasn't figured that one out yet. So I'm curious to find out the reasons for that. I assume that it is something to do with the less potent it is, the more people will buy because they're not getting drunk. So it's like it makes people more money because they just keep drinking it. But that's my guess. I'm curious. Because, like, but at the same time, look, sorry for this intro getting really long. At the same time, make it taste good and people will buy it also. Anyway, let's find out the reasons, shall we? Instead of me just getting mad for no reason at all.
American lager. Crisp, light, refreshing.
Hams.
It's as American as baseball and apple pie and Snooki and Abraham Lincoln's beard. And here in America, we sure do like our beer. We're ranked second in the world for overall beer consumption, an honor we've earned by tossing back roughly 51 billion pints of suds every single year. And although there are a lot of options to choose from, the style of beer we drink the most by far is the traditional light American lager. Of course, not
me. Not me. I mean, I will drink a Pilsner or something. I like a lager. I like a Pilsner, but they have to have like a little bit more of a heft to them than a light beer. I cannot stand light beer. I have drank like Hams, you know. Hams is good for it's like softball. Miller Lite, like I've well, not Miller Lite, Miller High Life. I'll drink after like a softball game or something. Like, but in general, it's like no. I'd rather have something with a little taste to it.
Everyone else in the world loves American beer.
We find your American beer is a little like making love in a canoe. It's f***ing close to water.
Very well-made beers. These are very high-quality beers, but they're kind of light on beer flavor.
This is Ray Daniels, founder of the Cicerone Certification Program in Chicago, longtime brewer and expert beer drinker.
And
I want to have that as I want that to be my title, an expert beer drinker.
And the main reason is because there's not that much malt in these recipes.
Yeah.
And the Germans have a saying that malt is the soul of beer, and there's not that much malt in these beers.
But how did a style of beer that's drinkable and refreshing, yet has no soul, get to be so popular? 5 reasons: German immigrants, prohibition, brewing technology, World War II, and the post-war consumer packaged goods economy.
Okay, great. We've solved it. We know it. No, just kidding. All right, interesting. I mean, I will say I also don't like stouts. So, I mean, like, or porters. I'm not a big fan of, like, the really thick beers either. I'm very picky, I guess, when it comes to my beer.
But I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Excuse me. Could I get a cool, refreshing lager, please?
Here is our beer list, categorized by country. Lagers are listed on the left alphabetically by varietal.
Could I just Coors. Thanks.
Okay.
Ow. Paper cut.
You deserve it.
Why is that? I would say, like, for most of American history, this was the kind of beer we were drinking, right?
Like, I mean, like, I like a Belgian drink. Belgian beers are good. They're Pilsners and stuff. They're what's up.
Right. Well, it really has to do with brewing technology and the migration of German-speaking immigrants coming to the U.S.
Between 1850 and 1900, millions of German-speaking immigrants migrated to the United States. Prior to that, British-style ales dominated the beer industry, but the Germans wanted something different.
Wanted to make a nice, golden, clear, pale beer, because that was the style of beer in Germany at the time. But American barley, the stuff that grows here in the United States, is different than the barley that grows in Europe. And they couldn't make a clear beer with American 6-row barley because it has a higher protein content. problem. They were very annoyed. They couldn't get clear beer.
I mean, I would be pretty annoyed I couldn't get beer.
Absolutely. You know, it didn't look pretty the way it was supposed to.
Yeah.
So they figured out that if they took a low protein grain like corn or rice and mixed it into the recipe, that they'd get a lower protein content in the finished beer, and the beer would turn out clear. So that was the original reason. It was not to make it cheap. It was not, you know, anything else, but they wanted a nice, clear, golden beer.
The Czech-style Pilsner, which is a type
Oh, I love a Czech Pilsner too. The Czech style Pilsners are good. I like a Turkish lager as well. Efes? Yes, thank you. But no, we've got Czech Pilsner at the bar I work at. It's so good.
of lager quickly became the beer of choice. Breweries began popping up all over the place, many of which were owned and operated by German immigrants like Adolf Coors, Frederick Miller, Joseph Schlitz, Frederick Pabst Blue Ribbon, full name, and a soap maker named Eberhard Anheuser. The brewing
I will say I do know, like, Pabst Blue Ribbon is called that because Pabst, their beer won the Blue Ribbon for, like, best brewing beer in 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair. And so they won the Blue Ribbon at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893, and they were like, Pabst Blue Ribbon forever. We have the PBR. So that is why the Blue Ribbon is there on a Pabst beer. Now you know.
Industry in America flourished, and by 1873 the country had over 4,000 breweries. However, this golden age of golden lager would not last long. The boom in the beer industry was accompanied by a boom in other things associated with beer, like public drunkenness and domestic violence. Then something happened in America that set the brewing industry back a few decades.
I was just gonna hold on. Let's go look and see some of these ladies. Lips that touch liquor shall not touch ours. I feel like the one, like, hanging down here with the big old bow on her lapel right behind the word, like, on auntie, like, with their, she seems like she's being just silly. And then, actually, a lot of them seem like some of them seem like they're being a little bit facetious here. Some of them, their faces look real. Like, they're like, absolutely not. But some of them, this one here, next to the one with the plaid or the weird diamond tat, looks like they're making a face, like, and this older one here with the white on the very end, some of them look like they're just like, oh yes, I am being a grumpy old lady. But none of them are like hot, you know. Lips that took liquor shall not touch ours. Oh no, what am I missing? Which is rude. I'm being rude towards these women who have been dead for, like, decades. For centuries. Old ghosts. I'm being so rude to them. I'm like, they're hideous. Who would want to kiss them anyway? They look bad-tempered.
Then something happened in America that set the brewing industry back a few decades. When the 18th Amendment passed in 1919, prohibition in the United States had officially begun. The production, transport, and sale of alcohol became illegal, and the beer industry all but ceased to exist, with the exception of a few industrious entrepreneurs. When prohibition was finally repealed in 1933, only a fraction of the beer manufacturers from the
Oh my god, I want one! Look at that goblet! Oh, look what this lady's got here, this giant goblet of beer. That's fantastic. I love it. Oh, yes, please. And thank you. Why did she get a giant old goblet and everybody else has just, like, little cups? How'd she swing that? Good for her. But I also know that, like, in the, during Prohibition, a lot of people, they would prescribe beer and stuff and like whiskeys, and like the alcohol didn't go away. They just started prescribing them as like medicine, and it didn't always work, and then they would get in trouble. But like that's where things like Malort and bitters came about, because like they would have it and it's alcoholic in content, but then like the police would be like, you can't have that, it's alcohol. It's like, it's not alcohol, it's medicinal, taste it. And it tasted so bad that they were like, the authorities were like, yep, that's medicine, all right. But they did it for beer and stuff too. Like, it worked somewhat. Not out, people still were occasionally able to sneak a drink. I've recently learned that, which I just thought was fun.
In 1933, only a fraction of the beer manufacturers from the late 1800s remained, and that number continued to drop every year. Strict state laws combined with heavy government regulation made it difficult for smaller beer companies to survive, not to mention the fact that home brewing was still illegal. During World War II, grain was rationed in the United States, forcing beer makers to rely more heavily on adjuncts like corn and rice. This slowed the reemergence of smaller breweries, but allowed bigger, established breweries to flourish. After the war ended, America didn't need to ration anymore, and we began to adopt a more liberal approach to consumption.
And then the 20th century was pretty much a century of consumer packaged goods in the United States. We had very narrow media outlets. When I was a kid, there were only 3 TV stations, period. I know, ancient history, right?
Yeah.
Everything got narrowed down to a very small number of brands with universal distribution throughout the country.
So about the just sorry, this has nothing to do with the beer or whatever, but like, I mean, when I was a kid, I only had a couple of TV stations too. Like we had, I think, like 5 maybe, technically 10, but like you would have like channel 5 and 45 for the same channel. Like it was still, that was Fox. They played the same thing, like channel 2 and 11 were the same. Like we had like every single channel we had was like a repeat. So we had, ABC, NBC, Fox, PBS, but the PBS was really, really snowy and fuzzy. Like we couldn't really get a good image of it. I think there was like another one. I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of TV. We didn't have cable. Cable existed when I was a kid, but we did not have it.
It was true for soap, breakfast cereal, coffee was Folgers and Maxwell House. I mean, everything got narrowed down to a very small number of consumer brands, and beer was no different.
Throughout the second half of the 20th century, the number of independent breweries dwindled as beer manufacturers merged and companies like Anheuser-Busch and Miller continued to grow. By 1978, the beer-making industry hit a record low, with only around 80 breweries operating in the U.S. America's beer got even more watered down when the big beer companies devised a brilliant strategy to sell more beer. Light beer.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Originally marketed unsuccessfully as a diet drink, light beers promised the same great taste, but with less filling, which basically just encouraged people to drink more. Miller Lite and Bud Light's advertising campaigns were hugely successful.
So they had Rodney Dangerfield and Tommy Boy in their commercials?
And further cemented their dominance of the beer industry. Unless you were one of the millions of Americans who enjoyed bland, watery beer, things were looking pretty bleak. But then a miracle happened. In 1977, Congress passed a small brewer tax credit, and in 1978, a bill was signed into law that finally made home brewing legal throughout the country.
Jimmy Carter signed home brewing, one of the other great things Jimmy Carter did.
Wow, what a great man.
Yeah, absolutely. Home brewing became legal, and home brewing really drove the craft brewing movement. It was really tough in the early days because there was no equipment. Nobody was selling supplies to these small breweries. A small brewer might need 1,000 pounds of malt. And they call up a malt supplier, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll send you some malt. How many train car loads do you need?" I was like, "Well, how much is a train car? 30,000 pounds." Like, can I get 1,000?
Yeah.
Click.
It started slow at first, but over the years, the number of small craft breweries began to steadily increase.
So what we're seeing now.
Hey, Revolution! I've been there. I like Revolution beer. There are a lot of that's really good. I'm in Chicago, which you would know if you checked out our Chicago Reacts channel. But we've got a lot of really good craft breweries here. There's a lot of them.
Now, what most people think of as the craft movement, the modern one, or the second wave, really started in about 2003. There were craft brewers out there who'd been sort of sticking to their knitting and really, cleaning up their game and getting things good. And new breweries started being founded, and we've had this huge, upsurge of breweries. So that's 30 years of craft beer history in a nutshell.
No longer limited to the light lagers that Americans had been drinking for over a century, brewers can now experiment with a variety of styles and flavors, creating new recipes and borrowing from old traditions as well. In 2015, the number of breweries in America reached an all-time high at 4,269, surpassing pre-Prohibition numbers. Of course, at the same time, after years of mergers and acquisitions, the world's 5 biggest beer companies now control over 50% of the world's beer market. Although big beer continues to dominate, it does not seem to be slowing down craft beer, and we have more options for beer consumption than ever before. This is truly a good time to have a beer, if you're of age, and you drink responsibly. Stay in school. So what do you think? Do you enjoy craft brews? Do you think we're in a beer bubble that will explode at any time? Or are you content to stick with the good old mass-produced American light lager? I kind of just like it all. Let us know in the comments. Last week we did a video all about the Centennial bulb, the bulb that lasted over 100 years, and here's what you had to say. Leo M. Rogers wanted to know some various technical things about the light bulb. Well, it's a 60-watt light bulb and it puts out about 4 lumens, which is pretty dim. Like me, it hasn't been turned on and off very much. It's basically been constantly on for 115 years. The fire chief did mention that turning it on and off can decrease the lifespan, so they keep it on. We asked you what you thought of the idea of planned obsolescence, and many of you had many opinions, so I'm going to list off some here. Metric Imperialist said that he thinks planned obsolescence is a good thing because people will replace their technology anyway, even if it doesn't stop working. Technology is growing very fast and people want to replace things for the next great thing. That's a good point, but I did drive a 1981 Toyota Corolla for many, many years in the 2000s, because I'm like that. George Watson doesn't like planned obsolescence at all. Yeah, it kind of sucks sometimes, doesn't it? Buying a new phone every year because your old one stops working isn't necessary to keep the economy going, he says. And Quentin Leitner, appropriate name for that video, said that we shouldn't even be worrying about consumer goods to be happy. We don't need them. We don't need to keep working, to keep making money to buy new stuff. Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I'm personally just happy that my beer isn't yet obsolescent. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please click the like button. Well, it's a thumbs up button, really. And if you want to keep seeing more, click subscribe. And if you want to help keep the show going, you can go to our Patreon page, which is linked down below and on the screen somewhere. I think it's over there. It's over there. That's all. Thank you. Oh. And thanks to Aaron Yonda for being a waiter. Cheers. A bad waiter, because he's drinking now. And Greg Benson for holding the camera.
Am I supposed to say something?
You know, it's not that bad to have a little bit of a drink while you're on this clock, you know, if you work at a restaurant or a bar. It helps you be very friendly to people. Just saying. It can help deal with the Karens in the world. But anyway, so that was fun. Why does American beer taste like water? I had fun with that anyway. I really like it when I do know at least something about the video that I'm reacting to. It's like, it does help. It's like I get excited about it and I'm like, I know stuff, I know a thing. And I like it when I know a thing, and I like to learn more stuff. Like there was a lot in that video I did not know. So yes, that was great. I had a lot of fun with that. I hope you did too. If there's anything else like this that you would like me to react to, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. I think it, you know, I would love to look at more stuff like this. And I like it. Alcohol is great. Let's go. Let's have a drink. And if you would like to, go check out our other channel. We got Chicago Reacts and Chicago Reacts Anime. Those should be linked in the description box below. I'm on there as Bartender Reacts. And we've got a lot of gaming stuff. I've got some drink stuff on there. If you like this one, I've got a series over there where I'm reacting to I react to lots of stuff over there. I lost the thing in my brain about what it's called, but it's about drinking. Ha! I need a drink, apparently. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one.